Elias arrived at the old farmhouse just as the sun dipped behind the tree line, casting long shadows that crawled across the brittle yard. The air felt strangely heavy, as though the house itself was holding its breath, waiting for him to cross the threshold. Inside, the smell of mildew and rotting timber wrapped around him like a damp blanket. He tried to shake it off, telling himself that old houses always felt this way, especially ones abandoned for as many years as this one had been. After a few hours of sweeping, dust from corners and tossing moth-eaten curtains into a pile, he rolled out his sleeping bag in what used to be the living room. Exhaustion pressed on him, but sleep came slowly, dragged down by the eerie silence of the house. Sometime after midnight, a sound pulled him from half-dreams, a faint tapping beneath the floorboards. At first he thought it was the house adjusting to the cold, but the taps came again, slow, evenly spaced, deliberate. Elias held his breath, listening. Tap, tap, tap. His heart thudded in his chest, drowning out everything except the growing certainty that this was no natural creak. When he finally worked up the courage, he pushed himself upright and crawled closer to the sound. The tapping stopped instantly, as if whatever caused it sensed him moving. He leaned down, placing his ear against the cold wood. For several seconds there was only silence. Then so softly he almost convinced himself he imagined it. A whisper drifted upward through the cracks. It spoke his name. Not hissed, not shouted. Spoken in the gentle voice of someone familiar. Elias jerked back, breath caught in his throat. His grandmother's voice, unmistakable even after all the years she had been gone, seeped from the boards. Curiosity and dread warred inside him as he grabbed the nearest tool, a flathead screwdriver, and wedged it into the gap between planks. The wood groaned as he pried it up. What he found beneath was not a hidden space or a creature, but a set of deep gouges carved into the underside of the board, as though something had clawed at it from below. The whisper came again, closer this time, and Elias scrambled backward, unable to decide whether he should flee the house entirely or keep digging to discover what had been waiting for him to return. Sleep was impossible after that first night. Elias spent the morning pacing the house with a flashlight and a growing sense of unease. Something wasn't right. He felt it in the way the walls seemed to tilt inward, in the strange cold spots that shifted from room to room, in the silence that thickened around him like fog. He kept telling himself that grief and exhaustion were playing tricks on him, but even he didn't believe it. The whispering, the claw marks, the voice mimicking someone long dead, none of it could be explained away. He returned to the living room, determined to find the source of the whisper. He knelt near the spot where he had removed the floorboard, running his fingers over the jagged scratches. The tapping hadn't returned, but the house felt attentive, as though listening closely. Something nudged at his memory, his grandmother's odd rule that no one was allowed to lift the rugs in the house. She had always insisted they stay exactly where they were. Curious, Elias moved from room to room, checking every rug. They were old, thin, and brittle with age, each one covering a large portion of the floor. When he reached the small hallway near the back of the house, he paused. The woven rug there was larger than the others and significantly thicker, as though something hid beneath it. With a deep breath, he pulled it back. Beneath the rug lay a trap door, sealed shut with rusty nails hammered in at odd angles. Elias' pulse quickened as he pried them loose one by one. The trapdoor creaked open with a long groan that echoed through the house. A staircase descended into darkness lined with walls coated in dust and cobwebs. He switched on his flashlight and stepped down carefully. The basement, or whatever this space was, didn't resemble a normal storage area. Instead, it looked like a small hidden room, barely tall enough to stand upright in. Moonlight filtered through thin gaps in the floorboards above, casting pale stripes across the walls. Pinned to those walls were dozens of children's drawings. The paper had yellowed and curled with age, but the crayon marks were still vivid. The drawings showed the farmhouse in various angles. Some were innocent enough, but others sent a chill down Elias's spine. In nearly every picture, a dark, faceless figure loomed behind someone, his grandmother, a child who resembled him, even the house itself. Elias stepped closer, studying one where the faceless figure crouched beneath the floorboards. The tapping began again from the far corner of the room. The flashlight beam flicked toward the sound, but nothing waited there. The tapping stopped, leaving Elias alone in the cold semi-darkness, with the drawings that felt like warnings he wasn't meant to ignore. Elias didn't sleep at all that night. Instead, he sat in the hidden room with the drawing spread around him, like a mosaic of forgotten memories. Something tugged at the edges of his mind, a sensation of déjà vu mingled with dread. As he sifted through the papers, his hand brushed something behind a loose plank. He pried it free and found a small, leather-bound journal wrapped in brittle cloth. The cover was cracked, the pages swollen from age and dampness. His grandmother's handwriting, unmistakably neat yet trembling, filled the first page. The earliest entries were harmless, notes about the weather, gardening thoughts, and mentions of a child playing in the yard. But as Elias read further, the tone darkened. His grandmother wrote about noises beneath the house. Tapping that grew louder each night, whispers that shifted from nonsense to familiar voices. She wrote about something she called the thing under the house, describing it as a presence she could feel but never fully see. It lived in the spaces between the walls and under the floors, mimicking voices to lure people closer. She wrote that it fed on attention, on acknowledgement, and that she made a terrible mistake by responding to it the first time she heard her name spoken from the floorboards. The entries became frantic. She described sleepless nights, claw marks appearing on furniture and walls, and the sense that the house itself had become a vessel for something ancient and hungry. She sealed the trapdoor, nailed the rugs in place, and prayed no one would ever find the room again. Her final entry was the shortest and the most chilling. It wants Elias. It always wanted Elias. I kept it away as long as I could. Elias' hand shook as he closed the journal. His breath fogged in the suddenly frigid air. From above, the whispering began again, not soft this time, but clear, urgent, almost pleading. It called his name with the voice of a little boy, a voice that sounded achingly like his own at 5 or 6 years old. Then the voice changed, shifting into his grandmother's tone, gentle and trembling. "Help me," it said. "Please help me." Elias felt his chest tighten. Logic told him it was a trick, that the creature mimicked voices to draw him closer, just as the journal warned. Yet a small part of him, the part that still remembered his grandmother's warm hands and soft humming, hesitated. The floorboards above creaked as something paced directly over his head.